Driving through these old rolling hills to the closest place to heaven I know. Heading north through Kentucky to the only place I'll ever call home. I'm leaving the bluegrass state behind, waiting for me on the other side. Fields of corn and factories, small family farms, kids playing basketball, hoop on a red barn, cranking up John Mountain Camp on I-65. I drive past it.
Hey guys, so I'm at the Homestead property and I'm walking right back at the back of the house right now, getting ready to enter the woods. And today we're gonna do some planning for some work. My dad's already cut down quite a few trees, and I'll explain why once we get up into the food plot a little bit. But you know, we're gonna cut some today, probably we're gonna hinge, and a lot of planning is gonna go into today. So I'll just start right here. The first step, or the first thing we want to do, is try to salvage a couple of these old apple trees we got in our woods. They are not producing, and we're hoping to get them to produce. Right here, right in the back of the house, and I'll show you, right up there's the garden, right there's the house. Eventually we want to get some pine trees planted right here for cover, but if you look, there's an apple tree right in there. That's one right there. So we want to cut all this stuff around it out, get rid of that cherry tree it looks like right there, and just completely clear out a space around these apple trees. We've got another one right in there is an apple tree, and then we've got one right here, right by the path. And you can see, I mean, it's growing well. My dad trimmed this one up a few years ago, or just last year, and it's doing well, but it's not producing apples. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna try to graft onto these different kinds of apples that'll hopefully cross-pollinate. I've been studying up on that, and this is a good example of one. You know, what we could probably do right here is this one, leave that shoot that's going up as a nursing branch, cut this clean off and graft onto the end of it, and see if it'll take. The nice thing is, if it doesn't, there's a whole nother nursing branch over here, and you know, we might even be able to cut this right here, and depending what the wood looks like, we might be able to graft right onto that. But we're gonna graft onto these puppies, get rid of all the competition around it, get rid of those trees there that are gonna take nutrients from it, get rid of the trees around here, and plant some pine trees maybe up by the garden, because if we're opening it up more, it's just going to make it even easier for the deer to see. Obviously we want to thicken this up a little bit more up in here, just basically make it real thick and real hard for the deer to see up to the house, you know, and that's going to take a lot of pine trees. And we got a lot of white pine trees on order, and we think we realize now we probably should have got some more. But here, I'm going to walk on down a little farther, and as you've seen in prior videos, this is our first little food plot back here. It's just a little bowl food plot, basically a transition food plot, nothing special. I'm not really good at knowing what kind of tree it is, but that might be an apple right there. If it is, we'll do the same thing to it. We got a couple little trees right here to my left that could be as well. And but as you can tell, look at how open that is. I mean, look, I'm gonna zoom over here. Look, I mean, you can see right through our woods. It tells me right there we need to get it thicker in here, year-round thickness. In the summer months and in the early October, early hunting season, it's really thick in here, but not right now. So we're gonna thicken it up with a lot more hinge cutting, a lot more planting, hopefully. And while I'm talking about planting, you know, one tip is, we noticed that over at the swamp property there is probably over 70 baby, it looks like either maybe cypress or cedar trees, and you know, anywhere from 4 inches to 3 feet. And we're gonna ask the landowner, you know, would he be willing to give them to us if we transplant them? Would he be willing to sell us them for, you know, like $1 or $2 a pop? And that's just free trees basically that we can then plant here, protect them, and let them grow. And you know, those are going to take a lot longer to grow than white pines, which is why we're going to be planting a lot of white pines, because those are going to give us the quickest assistance in this category of thickening up the woods. But yeah, so all right, now I'm gonna walk on over to the main food plot behind the house, the bigger one. It's connected by a short path, and as you can tell, there's been a lot of cutting going on. My dad and I both agreed that this food plot needed to have more light. We were beginning to see up above here, if I would have done this a while back, you would have seen tons of trees leaning over into the food plot. They're starting to stretch in because that's where the light is. That's, you know, they're all competing for the light, so they're trying to get over it. So you can tell, I mean, he fell a big tree there, tree there. I mean, this whole food plot was just covered with trees a little while ago. And here's a tip, you know, one thing you can do to thicken up your edges is he's just piling all the wasted tree tops and stuff along the edges. And over time, that's going to fall down, but birds are going to land on that. Birds are going to crap out seeds. Those seeds are going to sprout, and stuff's going to spring up in them. And next thing you know, you got your own natural hedgerow. But in the meantime, you've blocked off that area. You've given the deer a little bit of a security blanket, an edge to the food plot. And here's a fine example of a great little apple tree that we're going to try to you know, I'll probably top cut 2 of those 3, let one be the nursing branch for a year, and see if we can't get a different type of apple to grow on there. Great example right here, you know. I'll probably cut some of these briars around it, but really there's not much competition for this apple tree right here. Might cut 1 or 2 of those trees back there, but otherwise we're pretty good. I'm gonna pan back. That's the house for orientation purposes, and we got an apple tree right here. I'm gonna be really careful how I graft onto this one because they love using this right here as a licking branch. So as you can tell, we got an apple tree here. We got this apple tree right here, but I don't know if it's gonna live. I don't know if it's even worth trying to graft onto. But we got another apple tree up there. We actually got 2 of them right side by side. And the one thing that we're trying to decide is this no man's land up here in between the house, the field, and the food plot. You know, if we thicken this up too much, the deer are gonna bed in it. And as you guys know, one of our tree stands, we have to walk from the house out through the field and on around to the corner, and I'm basically pointing right over in the vicinity of the tree that we like to hunt at the base of the hill, and the deer just funnel around the hillside to the food plot, or vice versa from the food plot around the hill, or even up the hill, as we learned this last year. So what we're trying to decide to do with this area right in here is going to be a big part of this year's plan. Do we want to hinge it and just make it impenetrable and thick? Do we want to try to clear it out some and plant a bunch of white pines or trees? I'm gonna pan back on me. Or another thought is to locate, because I think there's 1 or 2 other apple trees up in there, really clear out around the apple trees, which again, we're talking the south side of this food plot. And if you notice, a lot of our cutting took place on the southern side, and we still might get rid of a couple more of these trees because the longer the sun in the northern hemisphere, you're going to get more sun from the southern side of the food plot. So if you can keep the southern side more open with canopy wise, you're going to get more sunlight onto your food plot, hopefully a better food plot. It'll flourish more. But yeah, so that's where we're at. And then let me take you over here. I'm going to walk on to the northern side of this food plot to a couple ideas that we're going to try this year. You know, it's something that we've never really thought about doing before. We always used to think, don't cut an oak tree, don't cut an oak tree. We're not living by that motto anymore. We're doing what we feel is going to benefit the deer the most. And you can see right in here, that tree right there used to be an oak tree, and that stump right there used to be an oak tree. But we still got a little oak right there, an oak right here, an oak, another oak, a bunch of these little baby ones, and we'll probably get rid of 1 or 2 more of those. But they're going to start flourishing, hopefully, because they're going to have less competition. But I'm going to show you one of the things that we want to do, and I can show you on this one especially, because the one thing that you'll learn Deer love oak trees. They love to nibble them. They love to, a lot of scrapes are found under baby oak trees. This one right here, you can tell has this little shoot right here. Hopefully I'm aiming it right. But I don't want to kill this, and we got another shoot right here, as you can tell. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna come in and we're gonna top cut it. We might even do it here, but we just want to get rid of this canopy protection that's happening. So we'll probably top cut it. It'll sprout here, but these shoots will just take off. And I'll train this one to be a licking branch in the future, because it's the perfect, I mean, you're talking shoulder height right here, and I can train that one. We've thought about doing that again, trying to decide between, as I look up, you can tell like that oak tree right there is not doing so well. This one's doing pretty good, so we might leave that one, but cut the one that the camera's on, do a top cut again, possibly cut that one as well. That one would be a good one to do a top cut idea on, because I mean, look at how many branches you got. You know, you're talking, you got a real thick, you know, that one's about as thick as my thumb. That one's gonna live. This one would be perfect to train for a licking branch in the future, and you probably would get maybe another bud or two to pop out, but you know, maybe above this bud right here you got the thick one, the one that we want to train for the licking, and then this one right here. So maybe top cut it right above that, let it sprout up, let those flourish a little bit more, and again, you're lessening the canopy cover, letting in more light. You're encouraging more use of the nutrients by the trees that you want to be producing. We got a good oak tree right here that's about the size of my thigh. You know, that one's probably only 3 or 4 years away, as long as we can keep it alive to producing possibly. Another thing that we're planning on doing is the northern side of this food plot. It just isn't thick enough. We got some walnut trees that are really big. You know, they're putting acidic, they raise the acidity of the soil, so we're going to get those out of here hopefully. That'll let in a lot more light. Hopefully we can get some pine trees growing. One thing that we've thought about doing was this very northern part of the food plot, nothing really grows really well, so we've thought about putting pine trees in here, just planting maybe 8 or 10 pine trees randomly in here and letting them grow, giving them a different diverse cover. So yeah, we'll see what we're gonna do, and hopefully I'll keep you guys updated. But yeah, just thickening this up, picking what we're gonna do today. We've got a lot more to do. The northern border needs to be hinged a lot more, that I showed you guys last year, and I'll show you when we do that too. Hey guys, real quick, we're at the Homestead property working, and I wanted to show you, oh, I just noticed we hinged an oak tree this last year on accident. Not a big deal, but if we'd have known that was an oak tree, we probably wouldn't have, because there was other ones we could have done. But anyways, we're here along the northern border, and we're overcutting by the food plot, and I wanted to show you. We cut this northern border, but we ran out of trees this last year. We got a couple, but if we fall them, they're gonna fall on the neighbor's property. As you can tell, we're trying to block off the deer movement to the north because we're having real big issues with the neighbors. We used to be able to hunt it. That's been taken away from us by no wrongdoing of our own. Anyways, long story short, we need to thicken this up more, because I'm gonna pan over. You can see the deer are able to walk right through there, and we don't want that. One of their stands is right there, and they got a couple more up in there. But anyways, so what I did was I took some of the tops off the oak trees that we're cutting over there, and some of the other tops I'm gonna drag over here. I'm gonna throw them in that opening. It's kind of like a stopgate. It's not gonna do it long term, but it's gonna help, and we're gonna do our best to bring more tops in here. We might even fall a tree across this trail into that mess right there to hopefully thicken it up a little bit. So I'm gonna that was the before, and I'll show you the and there you have the after. Just some oak branches, oak tops, I think a couple thorn tree tops, and that's blocked off now, folks. So we'll probably thicken it up a little bit more, and as you can tell down that way, we're gonna do pretty much the same thing there, dragging some tops, which I am gonna go get right now from a walnut tree we just cut. So as you can tell, there's multiple uses. You know, we're chopping up a lot of this wood that we're bringing down for opening up the canopy around our food plot. Not only are we going to be able to provide my parents with some fresh heat in their wood burning stove, but also use the tops to block off stuff. And the wood that we're leaving in the food plot that we're chopping up, we're going to stack it in the food plot for a year actually before we haul it up and stack it on the wood pile. We're going to let it season. We're going to stack those strategically where we don't want the deer to exit and enter the food plot. So another tip for you. Hey guys, so I'm walking over to this hinge cut we did last year, and you can see these leaves right here. They're oak leaves. It's a type of white oak. We know that for sure, and we didn't know it, but when we hinged this tree, it's this one right here that has all these shoots coming off of it. That's an oak tree. We didn't think we had any oak trees besides on the very northeast corner of our property, and then by our bedding area, by the road, there's some swamp white oaks. Sorry, I'm gonna get this. But anyways, we didn't think there was any oaks elsewhere. Not to mention, we didn't think there was any white oaks anywhere. Well, when I see that, I'm like, oh my gosh, we blew it. That, you know, that stinks. Because it was a decently aged oak. It was old enough where I'd be like, let's save it. Let's cut some trees around it and everything. Well then, we get looking, you know, is there another baby one or something somewhere? And I'm gonna, that little one right there, we noticed the leaves up there. We're like, there's an oak right there. We're gonna save that thing. We need to cut these two big ones, and you can see we already cut the one. It was a locust and this bigger tree growing right beside it. Well then, we start looking up into the big one, and there's only a couple left, but you can see, I don't know if you can tell on the camera, but those are the same oak leaves. So we've got a fully mature, probably 20-year-old, I would guess, oak tree right here. So we immediately knew we need to get rid of some of these trees surrounding it, let it have all the light that it can. We're going to keep the little one beside it alive for the future, and we could have oak acorns right back here in a spot that we never knew existed. So it just goes to show, when you start working in the woods more, you start learning your woods more, you start keeping your eyes up and down, you even learn things about the property you've been hunting for years and working on for years. You locate stuff you never knew. I have a feeling with the locust growing right beside it, it kind of made it hard for us to see the leaves up there. It might be the type of tree that the leaves drop real early and we don't ever catch it. But needless to say, we're excited. We've got oak right here. You know, who knows, we might even be able to find another one right around here. But I mean, as you can tell, as I pan up, you know, it's not competing with a ton of stuff. This big tree right beside it is slowly dying. We can tell by the base of it, and it's too close to the property line to cut because of the way it's leaning, so we're just gonna let it die. But to the south, you can tell there's a lot of trees that it's going to be competing with light. So, you know, maybe we'll come in and we'll drop that one right there. That one right there that my finger is on. You know, and maybe we'll come in here and either keep the sycamore, which is the one on the right, or cut this one, which is, looks like a maple. We could cut a couple of those to give it more of a chance to flourish. So yeah, just another thing, you know, today we're working our way. We cleared off the northern edge of the food plot. We cleared a spot that you're going to see in the future. We're going to plant some white pine trees in. We're going to plant some trees along this northern edge too, pine trees. Hopefully they'll grow up, and that's another reason why it's going to be key. If we get some of this stuff to our south of this trail, it'll get more light in here. But everything's starting to bush up in here, and I think one good spring with good water, unlike last year when we didn't even know what water was in northern Indiana, it seemed like. Rain just didn't happen. I think one good spring, wet spring, this northern border is just going to flourish. Shoots are going to keep up with the deer browsing them, and we're going to have a real nice, thicker October and hopefully into November hedgerow basically right here. So, yeah. We'll check in with you guys here in a little bit. Oh, one thing. Last year I showed you guys we put in 2 micro food plots along the western side of our property near our creek that we have back here. The one thing that we've decided is we have no problem attracting does to this property, but we feel like we're not attracting the bucks we used to. So what we're doing is we're going to be planting a ton of pine trees, a ton of transplanting a ton of cedar trees, just stuff to start diversifying and thickening it up back here. So one of those 2 food plots is going to get planted in nothing but pine trees, maybe some persimmons that we got coming in. So I'll bring all that to you guys.